Hello there! Welcome to my show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak. Um, this is July 6, 2020, and it's Monday. And we have a lot of news today. Harvard University made an announcement. Yale University made an announcement. Princeton University made an announcement. Georgetown University made an announcement about fall semester. Um, yeah, we're heading there. This first semester, fall semester starts in August, where students are moved in by August. That's coming really, really fast. We'll talk about that and other exciting developments today. Today is National Fried Chicken Day. Hope you had some fried chicken. I did. I love fried chicken. Especially Southern, Louisiana, Kentucky fried chicken. Yeah, good stuff. Um, yeah. So, yeah, let's get to the numbers. We had 380 deaths in the last 24 hours. Um, as you know, the cases are rising, so the deaths are coming in like 2 to 3 weeks as people get worse and worse in hospital setting. 23 states have hospitalization that is up. So obviously, death is coming in 2 to 3 weeks. If it weren't for COVID, if it weren't for George Floyd protests, probably, we might have actually kind of come close to flattening a curve, but you can't just blame the protests because opening up unnecessarily provided an opportunity for a second peak. So, the protests were just one element. Opening up itself wouldn't necessarily increase the numbers. And that's why we're in trouble, all of us, because that's going to happen again and again, peak after peak after peak. So it's going to be like low, and then it's going to start spiking. The death is going to come 2 to 3 weeks after the spiking. And then people are going to shut down. And then numbers are going to drop. And then people are wanting to open up again, so they'll start opening up again. And the cases will rise several weeks later. Death rates will rise. And the cycle will repeat again and again. Kind of like the Deuteronomistic cycle that I talked to you about from the Old Testament. If you watch all my shows, you know what I'm talking about. So you should never miss my show. So the deaths are coming. We have about 380 deaths, which is still quite high. But we're looking at in a couple of weeks, thousands of deaths are coming. Because hospitalization in 23 states are up. I mean, some of them are getting sicker and sicker. Eventually, they're going to die. And so that's definitely coming. And so, yeah. So today we are at 130,284 deaths. Cases are going up, as you can see, like at 55,000 per day. So today our cases are at 2,935,716. I have some photos of Harvard because Harvard made a big announcement today. Harvard said they're going to have 100% online classes in fall semester for undergraduates and graduate students. It's a smart move because this is a killer virus. It's going to kill a lot of people. And that's like 100% certain. So having 100% online classes like Harvard is announcing today that they're going to do for fall semester is a smart thing to do. And that's what Georgetown University should do as well, have 100% online learning for undergraduates and master's and doctoral programs. Same with George Washington University, American University, Howard University. Um, yeah, you should have 100% online classes because death is coming. It's the flu season, for God's sake. I mean, people die in large numbers from March to May when it's really not flu season. Flu season kind of ended. Then you can imagine how many people are going to die in the flu season. So Harvard is smart to have 100% of learning online. Yeah, so that's what Georgetown should do. And that's what Georgetown School of Nursing and Health Studies should do as well, 100% online learning. Because you don't want to dilly-daddle and bring all the students to campus and then you have to shut down again. I mean, it's not going to be like March. That's going to happen during the flu season. All that headache, bringing people and then having them shutting the campus down, that's a whole process. Parents will have to pick them up. It's better just to go online, and that's the best way to prevent death. I have a Harvard graduation photo there from 2019. Probably the last physical graduation Harvard will see for a long time. And Harvard University School of Public Health said, is the one that said we have to social distance at least until 2022. And they're probably absolutely correct, at least until 2022, maybe longer. World Health Organization is saying that COVID-19 is forever, and that people who got COVID can get it again and again and again. Dr. Fauci also said the antibodies that you have doesn't confer full immunity, which means you could have COVID and then get it again. So Dr. Fauci is saying that as well. Center for Disease Control, World Health Organization, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, NIH, National Institutes for Health, they're all saying you're not going to have immunity even if you had COVID before. Meaning you get it again and again and again. So you get COVID in 2011, 2021, you could get it again in 2022, get it again in 2023, get it again in 2024, and every time you have the chance to die. Scientists do not know much about COVID-19, unfortunately. They still don't know. They're still like stumbling in the dark trying to figure out what COVID-19 is. It's like, flashlight, where's my flashlight? I can't see. I can't see the virus. Where's the flashlight? I can't see. And so it's like the Invisible Man. You can't see. And so that's the problem, right? We have an emergency situation, and deaths are coming. We have the second peak right now, and the second peak is going up and up and up, 55,000 per day, and we have a 5% death rate. So eventually, the death figures will catch up, like the medical doctor, Surgeon General, is warning us. So that 5% of whatever number we're going to have are going to end up in death. And those numbers will go up once ICUs fill up. ICUs are filling up in Texas, Florida, Arizona, Georgia, California, and North Carolina, South Carolina. Numbers are going up. Death is going to come. Cases in Utah are going up. Cases in Nevada is going up. But as we saw from the primary race for governor in Utah, one thing that COVID-19 is doing is helping incumbents, especially those incumbents who show up on TV to give updates on coronavirus. So Lieutenant Governor today beat John Huntsman, who's very famous. John Huntsman, he's an alumnus of University of Pennsylvania. In a normal situation, he probably would have won, but because of this COVID-19 situation, and governor, lieutenant governors, they're kind of giving report regularly being interviewed by the news about COVID-19. So they have a really good shot at winning elections. And so today, Utah announced that the lieutenant governor of Utah won the election primaries against John Huntsman, the ambassador to China. And so, yeah, and so it's kind of like incumbents heaven. So whether you're a governor or a president or senator, being an incumbent is a good thing to be right now. Unless you are backing like defund police or something stupid like that, then you can lose. I mean, obviously, I hope that Daniel Gay, the Republican candidate for Virginia U.S. Senate office, will beat Mark Warner. They'll be duking it out until November 3rd, 2020. Daniel Gate is a good guy. He served in the military. He lost his legs serving the country. He's a professor at American University. So, I'm hoping he'll beat, Mark Warner. But Mark Warner is an incumbent, so it's not going to be an easy thing because it's kind of like the incumbents here. But I think we can beat Mark Warner just because Mark Warner supports like defund police and Antifa and all these groups and, gay marriage, abortion. So Virginians are right now swinging right. So as long as Mark, Warner sticks to the left and Daniel Gates sticks to the right, I see potentially a landslide victory for Daniel Gate. I just recommend, standing firmly against abortion and gay marriage. These are going to be important issues. You gotta separate yourself from the liberals. If you look like a duck, they're going to assume that you're a duck. So you have to kind of separate yourself from the liberals, kind of swing a little bit more right to win. And that's whether it's presidential race or Senate race, any kind of race in 2019. Americans are becoming more and more conservative right now. That's what happens during pandemic time. It's just the general rule of thumb is people tend to become conservative, not only religiously conservative, because obviously they're praying to God to save their life and their children's lives. So religious devotion goes tremendously up during pandemics or any kind of crisis, like a Cuban Missile Crisis or anytime like wars or famine, religiosity goes sky high. So that's basically what's happening right now throughout America. Although you may not see it, that's what's happening. I'm a historian, an expert historian, so I know what happens in history. Yeah, so you can expect a lot of, kind of right-wing direction right now during COVID-19 era, because that's what happens. People trust in God. They should always trust in God, but people always gravitate toward God more when there's death, when there are wars. It's just when there are pandemics, famine, hunger. You can't avoid it. It's just a social reality. So yeah. So as long as you swing right wing, you should have no problem beating Democrats in 2020 election. But some Republicans are stupid, so they don't know what they're doing. So they may lose just because they want to look like they're, kumbaya, my lord, like a moderate or a liberal, and that's the quickest way to lose. Because the whole population is swinging right way during pandemics and crises. But anyway, let's look at India. India is a very disturbing reality right now. Because as you know, India used to have less than 1,000 deaths. But look at all those cases. They've reached 697,413 cases. Their death rate is still lower than America. 3% of those who are getting it are dying, so it's still much lower than America, like almost half America. But still, once you have cases increase, you're going to have death increase. You can't avoid it. And so the deaths are at 19,693. It just amazingly went up in just a couple of weeks. And this is what's going to happen to the United States as well. Right now, we have cases going up. People are going to get sick, like I've been saying, and what Surgeon General has been saying. And in 2-3 weeks, you're going to have thousands of people dying per day, and the death rate will skyrocket. And that's what's happening in India. As numbers increased, several weeks later, the death rate started rising, and they're at 19,693. They said there's no stop in sight, so it's going to continue to climb. And unfortunately for India, so it may become like Brazil, where they have like 60,000 deaths in a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, if you have 1,000 dying per day, or more than 1,000, it could easily reach 60,000 dead. So that's probably going to be what India will experience in next few weeks. So I'll keep you updated. But India is a tragedy story. It's an enemy of China, and they've been having skirmishes. And as you know, my theory is that China created COVID-19 as a weapon and is targeting United States and American allies like NATO, and it's working highly effectively. They didn't really use it in India until now, but because of the skirmishes at the border that's been going on, I think China deployed their COVID-19 biological weapon of mass destruction in India, thereby increasing its peak. Because you have to have viral load for people to get infected in massive numbers. So when the numbers drop, gotta find a way to increase the viral load. And as I said, there are several ways to do that. You could send like 1,000 people who are infected to a country, then it will spread it in that country. So human beings become biological weapons themselves. So that's one way to use human beings as biological weapons. But more effective way is if you have the virus, you spread it. You could drop it from the air. It's if people breathe it in, they get it. So China could just release it in populated areas in India, and then you'll see numbers skyrocket. So so there are several ways to engage in biological warfare. Obviously, the least detectable way is just to release the virus somehow, through one of your covert operatives. Somebody on a business trip can release a whole load of a vial of COVID in a densely populated train or subway, and then it's going to spread. So yeah, so that may be what's happening. As you know, my theory is that it's a biological weapon, and the reason why I say that is because there are so many irregularities in the COVID-19 numbers that it's hard to say that it's a natural virus. Because if it's a natural virus, it should be symmetric in the spread. Symmetric meaning it should be spreading like at the rate of similar rates throughout the country. And it should be killing far more people in countries that are medically backward than countries that are medically advanced. But right now, countries with medical advancement are the countries with most death, namely the United States of America, which seems to point to the fact that it's not a normal virus, in which case it may be genetically modified, virus. And that would actually provide the explanation, rationale for why the numbers are so asymmetric. Let's look at, actually that shouldn't be Egypt, that's a typo, it's Pakistan. So number 2 is Pakistan, but Egypt and Pakistan, they're both Muslim countries, as you know, but yeah, there's a typo, it should be Pakistan. Pakistan is number 2, and not Egypt. Pakistan is number 2 in Asia, and they have 231,818 cases. Their death rate is at 4,762. So 2% of the population are dying, but their cases are relatively low, so their death rate is lower. Obviously, they're only 1/3 of the death rate in America. But it's relatively high, right? I mean, 4,762 is high compared to Middle Eastern countries, which are Arabic Muslim countries or African countries, you know. So that's an interesting thing. But still, you know, the rate of death is much lower than America and Europe. And I think that supports my thesis that COVID-19 is a biological weapon um, created by China. Yeah, I mean, China doesn't have any death. Korea doesn't have any death. Korea is the little brother to China. So how do you explain that there is like no death in China and Korea, North Korea and South Korea? Yeah, there used to be only one Korea for most of its 5,000 years of history, and we were a little brother of China. They take care of us. So obviously, any kind of biological weapon created by China, you're going to see the patterns. Not many people dying in China and Korea. I mean, that itself is a proof, I would argue. Um, yeah. Number three is Bangladesh. Is number three. It is 165,618 cases, and the death rate is at 2,096. So Bangladesh has like a 1% death rate. Yeah, China has 84,889 cases, and their death rate is at 4,641, similar to Pakistan. So their death rate is at 5%, which is similar to America. And as I've said, you know, China started it, you know, limited release in its population just to show the world that it's not a biological weapon. You know, it's kind of like when you see TV, you know, a murderer shoots himself in the arm. So that when police comes, like it makes it look like, you know, the murderer shot the person he murdered in self-defense. So that seems to be what's going on with China. I mean, it shot itself a little bit to prove that it's not responsible for the virus or as a weapon. But you know, I mean, you just use logical deduction, and actually the fingers are pointing toward China as a country that is deploying COVID-19 as a biological weapon, because India really did not have that many deaths until India started fighting China. And then the death rate skyrocketed and the cases skyrocketed. So yes, it may be an accident, but it may be intentional, like China released their, you know, COVID-19 weapons of mass destruction onto India intentionally. And so that's my theory. Um, and you know, it's not Algeria, it's Indonesia. Obviously, Indonesia is Muslim as well as Algeria. So interestingly enough, the typos are two equivalent African countries that are Muslim. You know, because Egypt should be Pakistan and Algeria should be Indonesia. Um, yeah, but Indonesia is a country of 100 million people. They only have 64,958 cases, and their death rate is at 300, I mean, or 3,241. So 5% are dying. So the question is, why is it that like Indonesia doesn't have increasing cases by large numbers, and Bangladesh and Pakistan, right? Why is it like India is like taking off suddenly? So makes it a little bit suspicious, right? Because if you're using a biological weapon, you can't release it into the world. You have to use a targeted way. So you release it to America, you release it to Italy, you release it to Spain, you release it to United Kingdom, you release it to Brazil, you release it to Mexico. You know, there are kind of strategic ways you engage in biological weapons warfare in India. So you gotta put different information together. You know, social sciences, humanities, you know, scientific research, diplomacy, concept of warfare, intelligence warfare, um, you know, and so in a sense, you know, I'm probably the best person to provide explanation for what's going on in the world, because I'm an expert in history. I'm an expert in theology. I'm an expert in diplomacy. As you know, I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative, which is the primary #1 diplomacy group at Georgetown, or students, and I'm president. And so I understand diplomacy, both hard diplomacy and soft diplomacy. So, I bring all these expertise into the equation to provide you with a holistic explanation that makes sense of what's going on around the world, right? Scientists have limited skill in explaining what's going on because they approach it just from the vantage point of science. And obviously, diplomacy experts do not know science generally, so they have limitation as well. So I bring a holistic perspective to the explaining of what's going on. And that's why you're very fortunate that I created this show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak. My name is Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I'm running against the Democrat incumbent Don Beyer, who's a U.S. Congressman now. And Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County they comprise the Virginia 8th District area. Yeah, so you're very fortunate that I give you insights as an expert in many fields. It's an insight that even Goldman and Sachs cannot even match, cannot even come close to it, because there's nobody like me in Goldman and Sachs. So, not Goldman and Sachs. What do you call that? Goldman, that think tank, a consulting firm. It's Goldman and Sachs. Anyway, you know those Anderson Consulting, all these consulting companies. They use like brain power to solve solutions. There's like no one like me. I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. So obviously they're not going to come even 1/10, 10% close to like giving you the insight that I can give, because I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. So you're very fortunate that I have this daily show to provide you with insights. I assure you, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Gottlieb, Dr. Hahn, Dr. Bergs, they're all watching this show because they need the insight that I give to have the direction that they are looking for. So obviously, I'm not an infectious diseases expert. I can't go as much in depth into it, but I could provide a framework that may be more real than the kind of framework that a typical 30-year expert of infectious diseases can. Because as I said, this is not normal infectious disease. Yes, it is an infectious disease because it's a virus, it's a living virus. But as you remember, China tried to clone a human being. And they may actually have successfully cloned human beings. They may actually be doing that right now. China tried to clone human beings, if you remember, many years ago, over a decade ago. So their advancement in genetic research are far more advanced than ours. I would say by about 20 to 30 years more advanced, because China threw all their energy behind genetics research. We did not. Genetics researchers are starving for money. We threw all of our money into like internet, into cybersecurity, things like that. So non-biological intelligence. Whereas China threw most of its focus behind biological intelligence or intelligent living organisms. So, which I think is a smarter way to go. Yeah, so China's reaping the fruits of their foci, whereas we're suffering from that because we're at a disadvantage. We are at a strategic military disadvantage because none of our cybersecurity mechanisms can block a virus, right? And so it's a strategic error that I would argue that Barack Obama made, because it was in his presidency, we start going away from biological uh, warfare um, research. Yeah, we needed to continue that. Um, but yeah, I mean, but he's not the only one who's at fault. I would say even George W. Bush was not so much focused on biological warfare. And obviously these presidencies span advancement of biological research by the Chinese Red Army. Um, so now we're seeing the fruits of patient research by Chinese over past several decades. And obviously they've been plotting this for decades to destroy America through biological weapons. Now they're being successful. Um, yeah, because they could keep releasing biological weapon year after year, forever. Um, yeah. So there are two problems in this regard. If this were a natural pandemic, it could still last forever, like WHO says, because even natural viruses can exist forever, like HIV virus seems like it's going to exist forever. Hepatitis C virus seems like it's going to exist forever. It's started existing, or or we identified it, and it's existed since. It might have existed before as well, right? I mean, in protoforms. Um, but besides that, the fact that the virus itself can be eternal in existence, insofar as earthly living forms can be, or regenerative, and not die out, as a species. Um, but obviously, I'm arguing that it's a biological weapon. It's a genetically modified biological weapon. And so China can continue to release that again and again until kingdom come, until Jesus' second return. So yeah, so that's my theory. So there are two reasons why I think this is going to continue forever, because science experts are saying this is going to continue forever, a lot of them, and because I believe that this is a biological weapon, and China will release it again and again on America and America's allies when they see the need to do that to maintain their dominance and supremacy. Yeah, it's like a poor man's weapons of mass destruction, right? It's hard to create, but once you create it, it's cheap to deploy, easy to deploy, because you just, send it with people. I mean, I mean, you can just send like 100 people who are infected, newly infected with different strains of COVID-19 that's been genetically modified to be more lethal, and you just have them, 100 of them fly into the Harvard University. It's spreads from there. So yeah, um, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why it started in China, in New York, because there's a lot of Chinese people in New York, so it's easy to deploy a biological weapon in a highly Chinese concentrated areas if you're the Chinese government trying to do this, and that's why COVID-19 started in New York. I mean, it started in Seattle, where there are a lot of Chinese people too, where Chinese nationals could come in unnoticed, right, and spread this virus. But obviously, New York is where it grew exponentially. I mean, Seattle is a population center as well, but it's not the economic center of America. So Chinese Red Army had no reason to destroy Seattle first. Seattle was a test case. It wasn't like a test run. Like, Chinese scientists are very, very careful. So they needed a test run somewhere, and Seattle served as a test run. When they confirmed that it spreads, um, in the way that they want, they released the whole load on New York. That explains why there aren't that many deaths in New York right now, because like any weapon, it has flaws. So China would probably have to deploy the COVID weapon again in New York to ensure maximum load. Um, and obviously now once it's released, it has its natural course of life as well. Uh, but as you can see from around the world, COVID-19 in its natural processes can die down to a certain level. So that's why I think that it's a biological weapon. China has to release it again and again, right, to up the load. So they released the load probably in Houston, Miami, Los Angeles. So that's how you know that this is not a natural virus. This is like an artificial weapon that needs to have the viral load released. Because if this were a natural virus, there should be a symmetric spread of COVID-19 in every metropolitan center in a state, but that's not happening. So like in California, you have a Los Angeles, which is lopsided release and spread of COVID, but it's not the same with San Francisco or San Diego. Both are heavily concentrated. They're similar in weather conditions, population density, but you don't see the same kind of spread. Same with, like Texas, you have it mostly concentrated in like, like Houston. So the question is, why isn't every metropolitan area spreading symmetrically? Whenever there's an asymmetry to something, that raises question marks for a researcher because irregularities highlight something, right? Why is it irregular? You need an answer to that. That's why my explanation works, because rationally speaking, if it's a biological weapon, you can have like 100 Chinese nationals fly in to release the vial, right? It doesn't have to be 100. It could be like a dozen. Just release the vial in key concentrated areas, like in the beach, or like during the protest, or like you just have to have some Asians holding up Black Lives Matter sign and then just release the vial, right? It's gaseous, so you release the contents in a concentrated area. Then once it takes hold of people, it'll spread people to people. So you just need enough viral load to make it harmful and infectious to the level of endemic, like pandemic. So I think my theory holds true because there seems to be a rise and fall from area to area. If COVID-19 were a natural virus, then there should be symmetric movement. But the movement is highly asymmetric, which points to the fact that it's a biological weapon. And so obviously, the United States doesn't have the technology to prove this. So China is set to be dominant, in the next few years, because this is going to constantly happen in America. Yeah, it's going to. It's a person-to-person spread, but China's going to make it more and more lethal. Obviously, they're going to fine-tune the weapon in the lab, in the Wuhan lab, or whichever lab that they have. They're going to release it again and again, year after year. So yeah, it's going to happen until China becomes number one and America is completely destroyed. I'm sure that's the goal of the Chinese Red Army. So you'll see. I think sooner or later I'm going to be proven correct. It's a theory, obviously. My evidence is more quantitative data that I'm interpreting for you based on its asymmetric pattern. But obviously that is proof, right? Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, it's bad. It's going to get worse. Yeah, so I march for life, as you know. I'm pro-life or anti-abortion. So that's one of my campaign promise, campaign promise number 2. Yeah, I've shared with you what my campaign promise number 1, number 2, number 3 are, right? Yeah, so hopefully you memorize that. But yeah, so I'm trying to save your life with this show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak. So I bring in interpretation and data to prove my interpretation or support my interpretation. Obviously, you could, as a rational being, listen to my arguments, my proof, my evidence, and make a decision for yourself. Yeah, I mean, you're a rational being, so you can think for yourself. Now, my heading for today's collection of articles is have good answers to COVID-19 crisis? Yes, no? Because COVID-19 is a mystery to a lot of people, including scientists. They don't know what it is. So what that means is policymakers don't really know what to do because scientists don't know what it is. And this first article highlights that. The title of the first article is All Harvard University Students Will Take Online Courses This Fall Amid Coronavirus. Some students will live on campus. So 100% of the courses are online, so you don't have to go to Harvard to learn. I would recommend if you're accepted to Harvard or you're a current student at Harvard, stay at home. That's the highest chance you're going to have to survive COVID-19. If you go to Harvard, you're going to increase your chance for death. And when you come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas, you're going to bring COVID-19 from Massachusetts, and you'll probably end up killing your parents. So I would say in order to save your life and in order to save the lives of your parents from death, because they're probably over 40 and they probably have like diabetes or some condition, in order for you not to be the biological weapon that kills your parents, because you become a vector. Even if you don't have it, if you carry it, and we don't exactly know how people become carriers or vectors because nobody really knows COVID-19 really well, you can end up killing your parents. So the safest way for you to survive COVID-19 pandemic is for you to stay at home. Don't change what's working. So the moment you change what's working, you put yourself at risk, you put your parents at risk. So my recommendations to every single Harvard student, stay home wherever you are, do the online courses. You're in this situation for many years, maybe forever. Maybe if you're a freshman this year, you have to do this for 4 years. Just hunker down. The goal is to survive, because if you die, Harvard degree is worth nothing if you die. So, the highest chance for you to survive is not to change the current status quo, right? Stay at home, do your online courses, get your exercise in every day, eat healthy, avoid crowds. Maybe a vaccine will be developed, maybe a vaccine won't be developed. You have to survive this way. If it's 10 years without vaccine, you may have to do this for 10 years. I mean, species go extinct, people. Don't think that human species cannot go extinct. Obviously, I'm saying this is a biological weapon. I could be wrong. But you can definitely go extinct, you and your family. And China might have created this biological weapon, but China also can be destroyed by it, because you can't really control virus. Like if 100 Americans go to China with COVID-19, they start spreading it all over China. I mean, it's like a biological weapon. Chinese Red Army might have created it, but 100 Americans who are newly infected with COVID-19 flying over to China, that's like a biological retaliation. You can see, like, if 100 Americans who just got COVID fly into Beijing undetected and spread it, I mean, it's possible for Beijing to become like New York, because it's a biological weapon, right? 100 Americans with COVID-19 flying into to Beijing, you could spread it like by having sex with Beijing prostitutes or whatever. It's a biological weapon. So that's one way to spread it. It's not as effective as if you release a vial, a pure concentrated COVID-19 in a crowded area, person to person infection is harder than a viral load released directly into your bodily entrance way. But anyway, it still can potentially do the harm that we've seen in New York in the Beijing setting, in which case China can be destroyed by it. But China's checking all the airports, so I don't think it'll be successful in deploying biological weapon in that form. I mean, if I were the head of CIA, I would try, to smuggle in, 100 to 1,000 Americans with COVID. New infection, it has to be new. Like you have to be at the initial stage or prodromal stage to infect people. So the highest infectious rates are you're just infected and you're kind of, transitioning into prodromal stage. That's when you gotta go to China if you want to be a biological weapon. So if I were the head of the CIA, I would do that. I would send like 1,000 Americans, swear them to the National Secrecy Act. People who just got diagnosed, preferably among the military personnel, deputize them for Secret Service, and obviously give them a profile like as a tourist or something. But you see how hard it is to deploy biological weapon that way. But and how many Americans go to China as international students, so that's not going to work. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, you have to have a mode of entry. You have to have a pretext. Everybody in the CIA knows you need to have a pretext to enter into a country and do your covert operations. If you don't have a pretext, you can't enter. You can't do your operation. Yeah. So anyhow, so I would recommend every Harvard student not to go to Harvard because you saw how horrible it got in Massachusetts. So during the flu season, most likely China will release their viral load directly onto New York, Boston, economic centers in the East Coast, because if China's purpose is to destroy America's economy, they would have to destroy East Coast cities, which are financial centers. So New York is the biggest financial center, but Boston is also a very big financial center. So New York and Boston will have to be destroyed. And even Connecticut, because of its movement, there are a lot of people who live in Connecticut who are financial analysts. And obviously China would want every one of them dead because brain power. Power of a nation is a brain power as well. So you have to kill off enough of these financial experts to destroy the potential of a country. So, protecting the brain is part of national defense. Yeah, when Nazi scientists killed a lot of Jews in Germany, and when US and Russia occupied Nazi Germany, they did not kill a single Nazi scientist. They brought them to America or Russia for weapons program. Their national security protection, because you need to create weapons. Weapons kill, right? So, yeah, I mean, you've seen movies about how, Human Weapons Project, they fake a death of a criminal who's just horrific and then trains him to be a weapon, a human weapon, right, for the CIA. It's disposable because it was a criminal. You've seen cases like that, and CIA does it. MI6 does it. Every covert operation around the world does it. Every country. Because you need covert operatives who are like assassins, who you could disavow, who are expendable. So there are roles for these people in every covert operation. Every country in the world. So and that's why they did not kill any Nazi scientists, although they're directly responsible for killing 6 million Jews. And they're not going to be killed because they're indispensable because of their scientific knowledge. Their life will be protected for that. This is a national security issue. Yeah, so Yeah, I mean, governments are always that way, right? They need a strategic advantage, right? We're in the mess we are in because China has strategic biological weapon advantage over us, right? If we had focused on biological warfare, we could have probably figured out ways to counteract any kind of a viral attack. But because we didn't use our energy in that regard, we don't know what to do. Experts don't know what to do because we didn't spend any money in that area. We spent trillions on cybersecurity, computer, internet. So we know a ton of that. Any kind of cyber attack that China does, we have no problem neutralizing it. But it's not the same with biological warfare. We are like 30 years behind China because we didn't focus on it for 30 years. So that's our serious problem. And if every biology PhD program, physics, chemistry PhD program that kind of focuses on this, you have like these Chinese nationals being TAs, right, at MIT and Harvard, and many of them go back to China. So, I mean, in a sense, our country trained biological weapons experts for China, right? I mean, let's be honest here. Chemistry PhDs, biology PhDs who focus on viral specificity, how can to genetically modified foods, you send it back to China, obviously they can be weaponized, right? Anything can be weaponized, right? Any knowledge can be weaponized. So Harvard, MIT, Yale, Columbia, basically gave America the brains to create the weapons. It's kind of like America took Nazi soldiers to create, Nazi scientists to create the nuclear bomb. Without these Nazi scientists, we would not have been able to create the nuclear bomb, atom bomb, to have a VJ day, right? Brain power is that crucial, right? You just put them together, you find answers, right? So we wanted to create an atom bomb against Germany. We never succeeded. We needed those Nazi scientists to be successful in Manhattan Project. Yeah, so knowledge is power, people. Knowledge is power. It changes warfare, changes economic advantage, it changes strategic advantage of all kinds. And so, yeah, so that's the situation we're in. My prediction is that China will release their next generation modified viral weapon in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, in the flu season. Yeah, I mean, see what happens in the flu season. See if I'm wrong. I think I'm right. Because, they may not do it on the first try. They're going to do it until our economic infrastructure is completely destroyed. Infrastructure meaning people who are crucially needed for the infrastructure dying of COVID, and the economic infrastructure itself. Um, you know, physical objects that hold up the human infrastructure. So my recommendation to the financial sector is go online, go home. If you could train your people to just do everything at home 100%, that's probably the best chance we have of maintaining our infrastructure economically to survive COVID, because this could be forever. You have to adapt to the situation. If you can't adapt to this situation, which World Health Organization experts are saying is forever, obviously the economic infrastructure will collapse. So that's why it's a good idea for Harvard to go 100% online and Georgetown to go 100% online, because we have to adapt. We can't survive COVID for the next 10 years if we don't adapt. So we need to adapt. Sooner we adapt, sooner we can save our infrastructure and people. Because let's say, 150 Georgetown University professors die in the flu season. You've lost 150 brain power that are irreplaceable. You could replace classrooms. You could replace, certain people. But you cannot replace professors who have 30 years of expertise and research. You can't replace that because that's 30 years of research. Like, I'm irreplaceable. There's no one in the world that is at my level of expertise in the area of Jewish identity. There isn't one. That's my specialty, Jewish identity. I'm an expert of Jewish studies. There are experts of Jewish studies who focus on, on Hebrew poetry, like my teacher at Harvard University. I learned at Harvard, right? I did my doctoral research at Harvard in Jewish studies with James Kugel on Hebrew poetry. That's his thing. He devoted his 40 years of his life to Hebrew poetry. He retired at Harvard and he went to Bar-Ilan University. So he's teaching there now. James Kugel, world's #1 expert in Hebrew poetry. That's his expertise. My expertise is Jewish identity. That's what I've been researching for decades. That's my expertise. So just like if James Kugel dies, he's irreplaceable. There's like no one who comes close to him on Hebrew poetry, parallelism in Hebrew poetry. Like there's no one who comes close to me on the concept of Jewish identity, objective research. Because there are a lot of Jews who try to study Jewish research, but they are Jews, so they can't see it objectively, which means their research is inferior. Once you start getting so emotionally wrapped up in your own research, there's an ethical compromise, meaning there's ethics of research. When the research becomes too personalized, then the integrity of that research comes into question. And anybody who's done serious research understands validity, internal validity of your research is compromised. Therefore, if you are a Jew who really cares about like being Jewish, then we probably cannot trust your research on Jewish identity. I mean, some of it we could use, but there's so much personal vested emotion and interest in it. It's probably not objective research. If it's not objective research, there's going to be a lot of flaws. But most importantly, there's ethical issues involved when you're so personally vested in your research. Is it ethical for you to actually research that at an objective level when you are like, I'm Jewish and I want to prove my Jewish identity and I'm going to do research, And that's like 100% of the Jewish studies departments in America. They're vested in the Jewish identity question. So any research that comes out of a Jewish studies department by a Jew who's vested in Jewish identity, it's not going to be valid research. I mean, you could say, well, yeah, there are things you could learn from it, but it's not going to be objective. You won't be able to see both sides of the story because there's too much personal vested interest. And for any research to be really credible, really, or internally valid, you have to discuss the limitations of your research, full disclosure about your research, and how many Jewish experts do you know in America's Jewish studies departments who fully disclose their Jewish identity, their personal Jewish interests, political Jewish interests, how many of them do that? So if you're like a medical doctor, it's irrelevant, how you feel about Jewish identity because you're an expert of medicine. You get to objective research into medicine. But if you're a Jewish person who's like vested interest relies on Jewish identity issues, then by definition, your research is probably not valid. It probably is not objective. Do you see what I'm saying? So I would say probably 99% of research on Jewish identity by Jewish studies experts who are Jews are probably not valid. Not valid in the sense like they're probably agenda driven rather than knowledge seeking, and obviously that's good for religion. Like if you're in Judaism and you want to push Judaism, you could be an apologist for Judaism. But you can't really call yourself like a historian. Do you see what I'm saying? Same with Christianity. There are people who are Christians who have vested interest in Christianity, and they are theologians or apologists, right? So I mean, everybody has biases, but you know, there's sliding scale of bias, right? And so, yeah, um, the this was in Boston Herald by Rick Sobey, and the relevant code here is all course instruction, undergraduate and graduate, for the 2020 to 2021 academic year will be delivered online. That's what Georgetown University needs to do. Georgetown University needs to announce that all the courses will be delivered online to protect lives of experts who are irreplaceable. They die, you can't replace them. If an undergraduate dies, you can replace them. I'm sorry to say, you know, I don't want to say you're replaceable, but let's be honest here. I mean, you're not an expert in anything at age 18. I mean, you're not an expert. I mean, you may be an expert if you were like a child actor, right? Then you're an expert in acting. But, you know, how much knowledge can you have at age 18? So you're replaceable in the sense that if you die, it doesn't hurt knowledge at all. It doesn't hurt society's advancement of knowledge in any way. I mean, you have future potential, like 20 years from now, you may discover a cure for HIV virus or vaccine for HIV virus. Yeah, but it's speculative. You may not. We don't know. But with professors who teach at Harvard, professors who teach at Georgetown, who have 20, 30 years of research, they're irreplaceable. They have proven what they know. If they die, the knowledge dies with them, along with problem-solving skills in their particular realm, along with any kind of assessment that is needed in that discipline that will advance the discipline. You see what I'm saying? So whereas undergraduate students are replaceable if they die, I don't want to say you're replaceable, but you understand what I'm trying to say here. And that's the position that Harvard takes, right? It's like, we don't want any undergraduate or graduate students to see or talk to professors and give them virus that will kill them, because professors are what makes Harvard. But if undergraduates and graduate students want to come to Harvard and take online classes, fine, because we don't really care if you die. You know, I'm sure they're going to make you sign a waiver form saying, if I die at Harvard from COVID-19, I will not hold Harvard responsible. But insofar as Harvard University is concerned, you're dispensable. You know, you die, yeah, the world hasn't lost anything. You know, and that's the attitude Harvard takes. And it makes a lot of sense because, let's be honest here, at age 18, if you die, the world has lost nothing, because you have nothing to give to the world at age 18. I mean, if you get married and have children at age 18, you're actually giving the world children, right, which is a human resource. So you have a value from that vantage point. But if you're a single woman or single guy at age 18 who goes to Harvard and dies from COVID-19, well, you just graduated from high school. How much can you know? I mean, you know, if you're like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, then yeah. But I mean, they didn't graduate from Harvard, either of them. They started their company when they're like sophomores in college. And smart person like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates would not go to Harvard to take an online class, because that's an idiotic thing to do. So by definition, if you show up at Harvard to take an online class on Harvard campus, you probably are replaceable. You know what I mean? Because no smart Harvard student will jeopardize his own life in that way. You know? So it shows that you don't have the mental capacity or critical skills to survive like COVID. How are you going to solve the world's problems? You can't even situate yourself in a way to survive COVID. How are you going to solve other people's problems? So if you show up at Harvard, you probably deserve to die. You know, or if you die, you know, it's okay. The world has lost nothing. Yeah. But obviously, I don't want you to die. And that's why I'm saying this in this show. All of you seniors who graduated, I want you to live So just take my advice and stay at home. I mean, obviously don't listen to me if you don't want to. You're a free person, do what you want. I just want you to live. So I'm just giving you this advice. But nobody's like twisting your arm. You know, do what you want. Yeah. So Harvard officials wrote to the campus community, students will learn remotely whether or not they live on campus. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Harry's like, I understand what you're saying. I will stay right here with you. So is Leo. Leo is saying, I will stay here right here with you. And Ducky says, I will stay right here with you too. Love. I love them all. Yeah. Even Mandy and Mindy are saying, I will stay with you here. We have a lot of fun, you know, with our beach ball. We'll toss it around and in a COVID-free environment. Yeah. The second article is from New York Times by Apurva Mandavili. Sounds like an Italian name, right? Apurva Mandavili. And the article is 239 experts with one big claim: the coronavirus is airborne. If you see my poem today, is COVID-19 airborne? Yeah, you kind of understand what I'm saying here, right? And obviously, I am up in current research on coronavirus. I am the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. I bring you information that you need to know, cutting edge information. Yeah, and that's why you watch this show every day, because this show will provide you with the knowledge you need to survive COVID-19. So obviously tell all the people that you love and like to watch this show because you want us to survive. Obviously tell your enemies too. You don't want people to die of COVID. It's just a bad way to die. And the relevant quote from that is, the coronavirus is finding new victims worldwide in bars and restaurants, offices, markets, and casinos, giving rise to frightening cluster of infections that increasingly confirm what many scientists have been saying for months. The virus lingers in the air indoors, infecting those nearby. Obviously, you can deduce from society to science. And that's why my social scientific prowess as an expert, as expert historian, is so valuable to United States of America. I'm like national treasure. What comes out of my mind can save United States of America in the COVID era. Yeah. Some human beings are national treasures. What can you say? I being Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, trying to save your life, am one of these national treasures. And you're very blessed because I come to you as a populist. So you can watch this every day for yourself. It doesn't have to be filtered out by the government. It doesn't have to be censored by the censoring Facebook. You get it 100%. And you could throw out what you don't want. You could accept what you want. You're a free person. As I said, I'm a big supporter of First Amendment, right? Because only by practicing First Amendment will you find a solution in any crisis. If you get offended at that flag, if you get offended at that statue, you're never going to survive COVID-19. Never. You have to keep an open mind. And then you can hear the ideas out. You reject what you don't like. You accept what you like. You rationally think about certain things, critically think about certain things to see which makes sense. What's the evidence? Does the evidence make sense? Yeah. Aren't you lucky that nobody is filtering out my daily COVID-19 by Heerak show? Because that would be like resulting in your potential death because you need this information, right? Some people get hung up on forms that they do not look at the content. Do you see what I'm saying? Some people are judge the book by its cover, so they don't read what's inside. What I call F students. A lot of F students are like, they look at the book and say, oh, it's like a bean-down book. You know, I don't want to read it. No. What's inside is more important, not what's outside. Why judge people by their cover? Right? But some people do. Some people get all hung up on a flag. Some people get all hung up on a statue. Some people get all hung up on, all kinds of forms. You know, forms are so important for them. Content isn't that important. No, you got to think about the content. This show will save you because of the content that I provide. You don't want to live through COVID-19? Don't live through COVID-19. You can reject what I'm saying, but don't destroy other people's chances of surviving COVID-19. Who made you God? Who made you God to deny other people the information they need to survive COVID-19? Yeah, you're like becoming enemy of the people. Those people who are like haters of this show. I mean, if you don't want to watch this show, don't watch this show. You're free to watch or not watch, but don't be like a hater, you know? Yeah. And yeah, people understand that they need this show. Yes, this show is absolutely necessary for survival of millions of people around the world. Millions. Yeah. I mean, I created this show for that purpose, knowing that you need my brain and expertise. Yeah. Because how are you going to survive COVID-19? Scientists don't know what the heck this is. Somebody needs to come in, give a critical assessment, rational deduction, and proof and evidence that makes sense. Need to give some kind of direction to Harvard University, to Georgetown University, to all the politicians, right? For you to survive. The scientists don't know what the heck this is. Do you remember in March, World Health Organization says, don't wear a mask. Mask doesn't, it's not going to protect you. Do you remember that? Dr. Fauci was saying, don't wear a mask. Do you remember that in March? Even Dr. Gupta, CNN was saying, don't wear a mask. This was like in March when World Health Organization was like, don't wear a mask. But Heerak Christian Kim said, wear a mask. Always wear a mask. Do you remember that? People who listen to me did not get COVID. That's why this show is important, because I have proven record of saving thousands of lives, or maybe millions even. Yeah. My predictions will come true. You will see, just like what I said COVID-19 is a 365-day-a-year virus, not like a seasonal flu virus. Am I right or am I right? And I also said in April, I said, COVID-19 is going to start killing children, and in May, it started killing children in New York, the New York virus. It was killing like one per day for like a week or 2 weeks. Yeah, so, and did I say the virus mutates? It's mutated now to infect 20-year-olds. I've been right all along. Where would you go without me? Everything I'm predicting is coming true. So you should assume that what I'm predicting about fall probably will come true too. And obviously I'll tell you in the fall, yeah, see what I said in June, did it come true? You'll be like, oh, thank God I heard Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District, took his advice and didn't go to Harvard campus while those hundreds of people died on Harvard campus. I stayed home in Ohio. I stayed home in like North Dakota, and I survived. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's go to the third article. But before going to the third article, I have to say congratulations for the pinning ceremony to clinical nurse leaders, 25 of us who are graduating. Well, I can't say who are graduating in August because I'm thinking, I have this queasy feeling that one or two will die from COVID-19 by August. I hope not. I hope no one will die. But I have this queasy feeling because, it's a killer virus and it's spreading around the world. Well, not really around the world. Let me correct it. Around the country. Yeah. So Yeah. Uh, 32 states have rise in COVID, maybe 40 states. North Carolina, South Carolina have like over 1,000 cases per day. So yeah, so that's, I feel a little queasy about that because I love all of you, all of them. So I don't want any of them to die. But so I can't honestly, in good conscience, say congratulations to all of us graduating in August because I don't believe that. Like I have this queasy feeling that's not going to be true. So I'm not going to lie about it. I'm going to be speaking the truth. So obviously, I hope that all of us survive to August. I just don't think that everybody will. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable with what's going on, with COVID-19, with 50,000 cases per day nationally, and death is coming for sure in large numbers in a couple of weeks. Yeah, so August is a long way off. We're just like, end of August is a long way off. Like it's like 8 weeks off. Yeah, I mean, geez, in 8 weeks, how many people died in the first wave? March to May. Yeah, most of the death in April. Yeah, in 1 month, so many people could die. Think of this happening in like Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm predicting that 10,000 people will die per day in the summer. It will reach that. We'll see, right? But anyhow, I want to do a cheer for my core members, clinical nurse leaders, who I love, all of them I love, um, especially because COVID-19 second peak is here. Yeah, CNL, CNL, 2020, CNL, CNL. We got pinned, yay! Yeah, I can't give you more than that because I don't believe that everybody will survive in August, by August. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could, but it's like one of those things like faith. You have to actually believe it. I can't say I believe it when I don't. It's a lie. So yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I just have this crazy feeling one or two will die. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully just like a indigestion from all the fried chicken that I ate for Happy Fried Chicken Day. But yeah, I mean, actually, I don't have indigestion, and I didn't really have a queasy feeling until now, like when I talked about it. So yeah, I think it's just queasy feeling. But anyway, yeah. So the third article is Georgia governor calls up National Guard, declares state of emergency due to violence. Did I tell you defund police will result in exponential growth of violence? Did I say that? Did I say that? I said that, right? I mean, I think I said that many times. Defund police. When you defund the police, you're going to have crime rising. Of course, it's going to rise. I mean, it's a logical thing because criminals fear police. So if you take the police away, crime will increase. That just makes logical sense. Yeah, so the quotation from that is Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is activating up to 1,000 National Guard troops after a spate of shootings and protests in Atlanta over the weekend. 5 people died, including 8-year-old girl, and at least 30 people were injured. So Atlanta now is becoming like Chicago, Chi-town. Yeah, it's sad. But anyhow, yeah. So I'll give you more information tomorrow. Yeah, I gave you a lot of new information today that can help you survive. So you're very fortunate. You're very blessed because this show is here. So tune in again tomorrow. COVID-19 update by Heerak show, and I'll bring you a lot of good stuff that you need to survive and to help your children survive. And if you have children who are accepted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, don't let them go. Just let them take the class at home. Do you want your son or daughter to die? I mean, don't blame me or don't blame God if your son goes to Harvard and dies in October from COVID. I told you that would happen, right? So don't blame me or don't blame God. Because I told you the truth. I told you what the probabilities are like. If you let your children go to Harvard, you only have yourself to blame if your child dies from COVID. Because I told you not to let your child go. Didn't you hear me say that? I said it, right? You see my lips moving? Don't let your child go to Harvard dormitory. Make sure your child stays at home safe and take Harvard's online classes. You see my lips moving? Yeah, this is what I said. If you don't listen to my advice, I mean, obviously, don't listen to my advice. You're free to do what you want. But I'm saying is I gave you fair warning. If you don't listen and your child dies, that you only have yourself to blame. You have to live with that rest of your life. Yeah. Anywho. Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to like lay it on you with heavy stuff, but I want your child to live. When you understand that, I want you not to lose your child. Because your child is apple of your eye. How would your life be without your child? Think about that. And you're gonna just let your child go to Harvard? You saw what happened to Massachusetts from March to May. It's going to be far worse in the flu season. Why would you let your child go to Harvard and die? He could be the president of the United States 20 years from now. For God's sake, do the right thing. Keep your child at home. I'm just looking out for you. You know, that's the kind of guy I am. Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress of Virginia's 8th District, is watching out for every person in Virginia's 8th District. That's why you should vote for me on November 3rd, 2020, because I want to save your life. I want to save the lives of your children. Yeah. Yeah, I'll bring you more stuff that you need, more knowledge that you need. So check back tomorrow. Now I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and giving you helpful knowledge and information that you need to survive COVID-19, you and your children. Yeah, I hope that you'll be well and that your family will be well too.